Hyunwoo stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council and felt small. The ceiling stretched so high above him that clouds formed near the top. Around him, representatives from 200 species sat in their designated seats. Some had tentacles. Others had wings. A few were just floating orbs of light. But all of them were staring at him. He cleared his throat and began his speech. Honored council members, I come before you today to request the end of Earth's quarantine. My people have lived in peace for 1,000 years. We have proven we are no threat to the galaxy. Laughter erupted from the Velkari section. Their delegate, a creature that looked like a walking tree, spoke through a translator. The humans think they deserve freedom? They are children playing with toys in their little solar system. More laughter followed. The Thresh representative, covered in blue scales, added his own mockery. I have seen their ships. They still use fusion drives. Fusion! My ancestors used better technology 3,000 years ago. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. This was not the first time he had faced such ridicule. Earth had been the joke of the galaxy for as long as he could remember. Once his people had been warriors. They had fought the galaxy itself in the First Contact War. But they had lost. Now they were farmers, miners, and merchants confined to their home system. The council chairman, an ancient being named Vorath, raised one of his many hands. The petition is denied. Earth will remain under quarantine. This session is concluded. Hyunwoo bowed his head and left the chamber. Outside he found Tae-yang waiting for him. The old historian was hunched over, leaning on a cane. His wrinkled face showed concern. Another rejection? Tae-yang asked. Another rejection, Hyunwoo confirmed. They laughed at us again. Tae-yang sighed. Come with me. There is something you need to see. The old man led Hyunwoo through the winding corridors of Apex Prime Station. They descended several levels until they reached the archives section. The door required special clearance. Tae-yang pressed his hand against the scanner and the heavy door slid open. Inside, rows upon rows of data crystals lined the walls. Each one contained historical records from across the galaxy. Tae-yang moved with surprising speed to a particular section marked with red warning symbols. Do you know why Earth is really under quarantine? Tae-yang asked. Because we lost the First Contact War, Hyunwoo replied. Because we were too violent, too aggressive. The galaxy defeated us and caged us for everyone's safety. Tae-yang shook his head. That is what they want everyone to believe. But I have spent my life studying the true records. He pulled out a data crystal and inserted it into a reader. Watch. The holographic display showed a battle from 1,000 years ago. Human ships, smaller than their enemies, moved with incredible speed. They did not fight defensively. They attacked with precision and fury. One human vessel rammed into an enemy dreadnought, destroying both ships instantly. The First Contact War lasted 3 years, Tae-yang explained. In the first year, humanity fought 12 species and won every battle. In the second year, the galaxy united against Earth. 50 species combined their fleets, and humanity was still winning. Hyunwoo stared at the images. But we were defeated. Everyone knows this. You were not defeated in battle, Tae-yang said quietly. Earth surrendered because your planet itself was threatened. The galaxy promised to leave Earth alone if humanity would accept the quarantine. Your leaders agreed to save your homeworld, but the truth is the galaxy was terrified of you. Before Hyunwoo could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red. The holographic display changed automatically to show a priority broadcast. Chairman Vorath's face appeared. Attention all council members. We have received distress calls from the Outer Rim. An unknown force has attacked our colonies. 12 sectors have gone dark. We are under invasion. The display showed footage from the attacked sectors. Massive machine ships moved through space like sharks through water. They were unlike anything Hyunwoo had ever seen. Sleek, dark, and covered in sharp angles. They destroyed everything in their path. The enemy calls themselves the Vrin Collective, Vorath continued. They are machine intelligences. They do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender. They only destroy. Hyunwoo watched as a galactic defense fleet engaged the Vrin. The Council's ships were advanced and powerful, but they were designed for peacekeeping, not war. The Vrin tore through them effortlessly. Their weapons adapted to every defense. Their armor absorbed every attack. In 3 days, 20 sectors fell. In a week, the number reached 40. The galaxy had not fought a real war in 2,000 years. They had forgotten how emergency council sessions ran around the clock. Delegates argued and panicked. Some suggested retreat. Others proposed negotiations. But nothing worked. The Vryn kept advancing. Tae-young found Hyunwoo in his quarters on the 10th day of the invasion. The old historian looked exhausted. I presented my findings to the council. I showed them the true records of the First Contact War. I told them what humanity really is. And? Hyunwoo asked. They did not believe me. They said humans are weak now. They said 1,000 years of peace has made your people soft. They will not ask for your help. Hyunwoo looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there the Vryn were destroying everything. And somewhere among those stars was Earth, still caged and forgotten. His communication device beeped. A message from Earth. He opened it with shaking hands. The message was short, just 7 words, but those 7 words changed everything. Reactivation protocol initiated. We are coming, Hyunwoo looked at Tae-young. What is the reactivation protocol? The old historian's eyes were wide. I do not know, but I think the galaxy is about to remember why they were afraid. On Earth, President Ji-won stood before the emergency assembly. Every screen on the planet showed her face. Every human alive watched and listened, my fellow humans, she began. For 1,000 years we have lived in peace. We became farmers and builders. We raised our children in safety. We forgot the old ways, but we never truly lost them. We only buried them, waiting for the day we might need them again. She paused, letting her words sink in. That day has come. The galaxy is under attack. Billions will die, and though they have mocked us, though they have kept us in chains, they are still our neighbors in this universe. More importantly, if the Vryn destroy the galaxy, they will come for us next. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, massive doors opened for the first time in 1,000 years. Hidden shipyards powered up. In the asteroid belt, mining colonies transformed. Their civilian exteriors fell away to reveal weapons platforms. On Earth's moon, Dae-hyun walked through a hangar he had only seen in simulations. Before him stood the TDS Indomitable, a warship that had not flown since the First Contact War. It was massive, dark and beautiful in a terrible way. She is ready. Commander, said Chief Engineer Jay. All systems are operational. Dae-hyun nodded. Around him his crew assembled. Lieutenant Hana checked tactical displays. Medical Officer Young prepared the medical bay. They were all volunteers. They all knew what was coming. How long until we reach the front lines? Taehyun asked. 72 hours, Hana replied. Dae-hyun looked at his crew. Then we have 72 hours to remember how to fight a war. Get to work. As the Indomitable powered up its engines, Hyunwoo stood in the council chamber watching the invasion reports. The Vryn had taken 60 sectors now. Nothing could stop them. But then, sensors detected something new. Ships were emerging from Earth's solar system. Human ships. Dozens of them. They moved with purpose toward the front lines. The council chamber fell silent. They watched the human fleet advance. After 1,000 years, Earth's warriors were returning, and the galaxy was about to learn that some things should never be forgotten. The TDS Indomitable cut through space like a knife through water. On the bridge, Commander Dae-hyun watched the tactical display. Red markers showed Vryn positions. Blue markers showed what remained of the galactic defense fleets. There were far more red than blue. Status report, Dae-hyun ordered. Lieutenant Hana looked up from her console. We are 6 hours from the combat zone. 37 human ships are with us. Another 20 are launching from Mars and will join us in 2 days. What about the galactic forces? They are retreating. They have lost every engagement with the Vryn. Hana's voice was steady, but Dae-hyun could hear the tension beneath it. Commander, the Vryn adapt to every tactic. They learn from every battle. The Council's fleets do not know how to fight an enemy like this. Dae-hyun nodded. That is because the Council fights defensively. They try to minimize losses. They protect their ships. He turned to face his crew. We will not make that mistake. In the crew quarters, Chief Engineer Jay was teaching a group of younger engineers about the ship's weapons systems. Most of them had never seen a real warship before. They had trained in simulators, but this was different. The main guns use magnetic acceleration, Jay explained. They can fire a projectile at 0.3 light speed. When it hits, the kinetic energy alone will tear through any armor. A young engineer named Sung-ho raised his hand. But will that work against the Vryn? Their armor adapts, Jay smiled grimly. That is why we do not give them time to adapt. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we do not stop hitting. In the medical bay, Dr. Young was preparing for casualties. She had studied military medicine from the old records, but she had never treated a combat injury. None of them had. 1,000 years of peace meant 1,000 years without war wounds. Her assistant, a young medic named Bora, was organizing supplies. "Doctor, do you think we are ready for this?" Young did not answer immediately. She thought about the old recordings she had studied. Images of wounded soldiers, of destroyed ships, of the terrible cost of war. "No," she finally said. "Nobody is ever ready for war. But we will do our job anyway." On Earth, Sujin watched the news broadcast with her husband. Their son Kite had volunteered for the fleet. He was on one of the ships heading to the front lines. He was only 23. "He will be safe," her husband said, but his voice shook. Sujin said nothing. She knew the statistics. She had read the projections. The Vryn had destroyed 90% of the ships they had encountered. Her son was flying toward almost certain death, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The human fleet reached the combat zone exactly on schedule. The Vryn were attacking a station called Haven Point. 3 million beings lived on that station. The Galactic Defense Fleet was already broken, their ships floating dead in space or retreating in disorder. "All ships, this is Commander Dae-hyun. Execute attack pattern Delta 7. Remember your training. Fight as one." The human ships spread out in formation. They did not slow down as they approached the Vryn fleet. Instead, they accelerated. The galactic forces watching from a distance were confused. Why were the humans rushing toward the enemy? The Vryn detected the human ships and adjusted their formation. They had destroyed hundreds of ships using the same tactics. They expected the humans to behave like every other species, cautious, defensive, predictable. They were wrong. The Indomitable fired first. Its main guns launched a barrage of projectiles at incredible speed. The Vryn ships raised their adaptive shields. The shields absorbed the first impacts, analyzed the weapons, and prepared to defend against the next attack. But the next attack was different. The human ships fired missiles that split apart into smaller warheads. Then they fired lasers from different angles. Then they released electromagnetic pulses. Every weapon was different. Every attack came from a new direction. The Vryn shields tried to adapt, but they could not adapt to everything at once. Projectiles punched through weakened shields. Missiles found gaps in the armor. Laser fire cut through exposed systems. One Vryn ship exploded. Then another. Then 3 more. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Hana was shouting orders. "Target their communication nodes. Do not let them share tactical data." Dae-hyun gripped his command chair as the ship shook from impact. "All ships close to boarding range. Prepare assault teams." The galactic observers could not believe what they were seeing. The humans were not just attacking the Vryn ships. They were trying to board them. It was insane. It was suicidal. It worked. Assault pods launched from the human ships. They attached to the Vryn hulls and cut through the armor. Human soldiers poured into the enemy vessels. The Vryn machines were efficient killers in space combat, but inside their own ships in narrow corridors, the humans had the advantage. Soldier Dongjun led his squad through a Vryn corridor. The walls were dark metal lit by pulsing red lights. Vryn combat units appeared ahead, their mechanical bodies moving with perfect precision. "Grenades!" Dongjun shouted, his squad threw their explosives. The blast destroyed 3 Vryn units and damaged the corridor. Before the machines could adapt, the humans were already advancing, firing their weapons at close range. A Vryn unit grabbed Dongjun's squad mate, lifting the soldier off the ground. Dongjun did not hesitate. He fired directly at the machine's central processor. The unit dropped his comrade and collapsed. "Keep moving," Dongjun ordered. "Find their reactor core." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vryn had lost 12 ships. The humans had lost 3. Haven Point Station was saved. In the council chamber on Apex Prime, the delegates watched the battle recordings in silence. They saw the brutal efficiency of the human attacks. They saw soldiers willing to die to complete their objectives. They saw tactics that prioritized mission success over individual survival. Chairman Vorath spoke slowly. "Perhaps we were wrong about the humans." But the Velkari delegate, who had mocked Earth just days before, was not convinced. "They won one battle against a small Vryn force. This proves nothing. They are still primitive and reckless." Tae Yang, the old historian, stood up. "They are not reckless. They are efficient. They understand something the rest of us have forgotten. Sometimes winning requires sacrifice. Sometimes you must be willing to lose pieces to win the game." On the Indomitable, Dae-hyun walked through the medical bay. 37 crew members had been injured. 5 had died. He stopped at each bed, speaking quietly with the wounded. This was the part of command he hated most. Dr. Young approached him. "We did well, Commander. The casualties could have been much worse." 5 dead is 5 too many, Daehyun replied. "Yes," Young agreed. "But 3 million beings on Haven Point are alive because of those 5. That is the trade we made." Daehyun nodded, but the weight of those deaths pressed on him. Command meant making impossible choices. It meant sending people to die. He had trained for this, but training was different from reality. Chief Engineer Jay found him an hour later. "Commander, we have a problem. The battle damaged our main drive. We can fight, but we cannot outrun the Vryn if we need to retreat. Can you repair it?" "Given time, yes. But we would need to withdraw from the combat zone for at least 2 days. Daehyun thought about this. 2 days without the Indomitable would leave the fleet weaker. But a crippled ship was no use to anyone. "Begin repairs. We will maintain position here and defend Haven Point while you work." That night, as the crew rested, Lieutenant Hana could not sleep. She kept reviewing the battle data. Something was bothering her. The Vryn had adapted to their tactics quickly. Too quickly. If the humans fought the same way again, the Vryn would be ready. She went to the bridge and found Daehyun there. The commander rarely slept. "Sir, we have a problem," Hana said. "The Vryn are learning from us. Every battle makes them smarter. If we do not change our tactics, they will defeat us." "I know," Daehyun replied. "That is why we will not fight the same way twice. Humans are good at adaptation too, perhaps better than machines." "How can we be better than machines at learning?" Daehyun smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Because machines learn from data and logic. Humans learn from pain and fear and anger. We learn from emotions that machines cannot understand. That is our advantage." Far away, in Vryn-controlled space, the machine intelligence analyzed the battle at Haven Point. The humans were different from other species. They accepted losses that other beings would not tolerate. They used tactics that seemed inefficient but achieved results. The Vryn calculated and recalculated. The humans were a new variable, an unexpected factor. The machines did not feel fear, but if they could, they might have felt something like it. On Earth, President Ji-won received the battle reports. 1 victory, 5 dead, 37 wounded, and the Vryn were still advancing in other sectors. She called a meeting with her military advisors. "1 victory is not enough. We need to do more. We need to take the fight to them." Admiral Kyung, the oldest military officer on Earth, spoke carefully. "Madam President, we have 40 warships operational. The Vryn have thousands. If we commit our full fleet to an offensive, we could lose everything." "And if we do not," Ji-won replied, "the galaxy will fall. Then the Vryn will come for us. I will not wait for death to arrive at our doorstep. We attack." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Delegates shouted at each other across the Grand Chamber. Some demanded that humanity be given full military authority. Others insisted that humans were too dangerous to be unleashed. Hyunwoo stood at the speaker's platform and waited for silence. It took 10 minutes. Finally, Chairman Voreth raised his hand for order. "Ambassador Hyunwoo, your people have won several battles against the Vryn. We acknowledge this, but some council members have concerns." The Velkari delegate stood, his tree-like body swaying. "My concerns are simple. I have watched the human battle recordings. Your soldiers show no mercy. They board enemy ships and destroy everything. They sacrifice their own people without hesitation. You fight like monsters." Hyunwoo met the delegate's eyes. "Yes, we fight like monsters. Because that is what war requires. You have spent 2,000 years in peace. You have forgotten what real conflict looks like. We have not. That is exactly why you are dangerous," the Velkari delegate shouted. "First you will destroy the Vryn, then you will turn on us." Hyunwoo's voice remained calm, but his words were sharp. "If that was our intention, we would have done it 1,000 years ago. We could have refused your quarantine and fought you all. But we chose peace. We chose to live quietly in our system, not because we were weak, but because we were strong enough to choose restraint." Tae-yang stood from his position in the historian section. "The ambassador speaks truth. Humanity has proven they can control their nature, but they cannot protect the galaxy while in chains. Earth must be given full sovereignty and freedom of movement. That is the price of their help." The council argued for another hour. Finally, they voted. By a narrow margin, the quarantine was lifted. Earth was free, but Hyunwoo knew the truth. The galaxy had not freed Earth out of respect. They had freed Earth out of fear and desperation. When the war ended, that fear would turn to suspicion again. But that was a problem for another day. On the Indomitable, Commander Dae-hyun studied the tactical display. The target was a Vrin processing facility in the Kilo sector. Intelligence reports suggested it was where the Vrin converted captured resources into new war machines. Destroying it would slow the enemy's advance. How many Vrin ships are defending it? Dae-hyun asked. Lieutenant Hana checked her data. At least 50. Maybe more. We will have 43 human ships for the assault. The odds were not good. But Dae-hyun had learned something important. The Vrin were efficient, but they were also predictable. They used optimal solutions. They calculated the best defensive formations, and that predictability was a weakness. We will not attack the facility directly, Dae-hyun announced. We will make them think we are attacking something else. He explained his plan. The human fleet would split into 3 groups. One group would attack a nearby Vrin mining operation. Another would threaten a supply route. The third, smallest group would wait in hiding. When the Vrin moved their ships to defend the mining operation and supply route, the hidden group would strike the processing facility. It was a gamble. If the Vrin did not take the bait, the human forces would be scattered and vulnerable. But Dae-hyun was betting that the machines would respond logically to the threats they could see. On Earth, therapist Min Seo was overwhelmed with patients. The reactivation of the military had affected everyone. People who had lived peaceful lives were suddenly watching their children go to war. Families were broken by loss. Society was struggling to adapt. One of her patients was Soo-jin, whose son Kite was serving on a destroyer. Soo-jin came to every session but rarely spoke. She just sat and stared at nothing. Soo-jin, Min Seo said gently, you need to talk about what you are feeling. What is there to say? Soo-jin finally replied. My son is out there dying so that aliens who mocked us can live. We spent 1,000 years building a peaceful world. Now we are throwing it all away. We are throwing it away to save billions of lives, I know. Soo-jin's voice broke. I know it is necessary. I know Kite is doing something important, but I am his mother. I do not care about the galaxy. I just want my son home. Min Seo had no easy answers. She could not promise that Kite would survive. She could not say that everything would be fine. All she could do was sit with Soo-jin in her grief and fear. Across Earth, similar scenes played out. In Seoul, parents held memorials for fallen soldiers. In New York, volunteers assembled care packages for the fleet. In São Paulo, engineers worked 20-hour shifts building new weapons. Humanity had remembered how to fight, but they were also remembering the cost. The human fleet executed Dae-hyun's plan perfectly. The first group, led by Captain Yoonji and the TDS Resolute, attacked the mining operation with overwhelming force. The Vrin immediately dispatched 20 ships to defend it. The second group threatened the supply route, drawing away another 15 Vrin vessels. That left only 15 ships defending the processing facility. The hidden third group, led by the Indomitable, emerged from behind a dead moon and attacked. The facility was massive, a structure that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Inside, Vrin machines converted raw materials into components for warships. Destroying it would set back the enemy's production by months, but the facility had powerful shields and weapons. The 15 defending ships moved to intercept the human attack. All ships concentrate fire on the shield generators, Dae-hyun ordered. We need to bring those shields down. The human ships unleashed everything they had. Missiles, lasers, kinetic rounds, and plasma torpedoes hammered the facility's shields. The Vrin defenders fired back, destroying 2 human ships in the opening minutes. On the bridge, Lieutenant Hana monitored the shield strength. Shields at 70%, 65-60. Not fast enough, Dae-hyun muttered. The Vrin reinforcements would arrive soon. They needed to destroy the facility before that happened. He made a decision that would haunt him. All ships prepare for ramming speed. We will take down those shields directly. There was a moment of silence. Then one by one, the ship captains acknowledged the order. They knew what it meant. Some of them would die. 3 human ships broke formation and accelerated to maximum speed. They crashed into the shield generators at tremendous velocity. The shields flickered and failed. The facility was exposed. Fire everything, Dae-hyun shouted. The remaining human ships poured weapons fire into the facility. Explosions rippled across its surface. Secondary explosions followed as the internal reactors overloaded. In less than a minute, the entire structure was tearing itself apart. "All ships retreat," Daehyun ordered. The human fleet pulled back just as Vrin reinforcements arrived. They had succeeded. The facility was destroyed. But they had lost 5 ships and nearly 300 crew members in the process. In the Galactic Council chamber, delegates watched the battle recordings with mixed emotions. The humans had won again, but the victory was brutal. Ships had deliberately crashed into the facility. Soldiers had died without hesitation. "This is the human way of war," Taeyang explained to the council. "They measure success not by how many of their people survive, but by whether the objective is achieved." To them, acceptable losses are simply part of the calculation. The Velkari delegate looked ill. How can any species think like that? How can they value individual lives so little? "You misunderstand," Taeyang replied. "They do not value individual lives less than we do. They value the mission more." "There is a difference," Chairman Vorath stood. "Regardless of our feelings about their methods, the humans are winning battles that we could not. The Vrin advance has slowed. For the first time since this war began, we have hope." But not everyone agreed. Secret meetings were held among certain delegates. Some species had not forgotten the First Contact War. They remembered human aggression and feared what might happen when the current war ended. Plans were quietly made. Contingencies were prepared. Hyunwoo learned of these secret meetings from his sources. He reported back to Earth immediately. President Ji-won was not surprised. "They will betray us," she said simply. "As soon as the Vrin are defeated, the galaxy will try to cage us again." "Then what do we do?" asked Admiral Kyung Ji-won, looked at the star map on her wall. "We win this war. We prove we are indispensable. And then we make it clear that humanity will never be caged again." On the Indomitable, Chief Engineer Jay was making repairs when he found something strange. During the last battle, a piece of Vrin technology had attached itself to the ship's hull. It was small, barely noticeable. But when he analyzed it, he discovered it was a tracking device. The Vrin were tracking them. Jay immediately reported to Commander Dae-hyun. The implications were serious. If the Vrin could track human ships, they could set ambushes. They could predict human movements. "Can you remove it without the Vrin knowing?" Dae-hyun asked. "No. The device will send a signal if it is tampered with." Dae-hyun thought for a moment. Then he smiled. "Do not remove it. In fact, I want you to find similar devices on every ship in the fleet." "Sir, if the Vrin want to track us, let them. We will use it against them." Over the next several days, the human fleet moved according to a carefully planned schedule. They traveled to specific locations, stayed for specific amounts of time, and followed predictable patterns. The Vrin tracking devices reported every movement. The emergency transmission from Earth High Command arrived at 300 hours ship time. Commander Dae-hyun was already awake, studying tactical reports when the message came through. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood correctly. Operation Endgame, a direct assault on Vrin home territory, beyond the galactic rim. The mission had a projected survival rate of less than 5%. Dae-hyun called a meeting of his senior staff. Lieutenant Hana, Chief Engineer Jay, and Dr. Young gathered in the briefing room. Their faces showed exhaustion. They had been fighting for 3 months without rest. "High Command has approved a deep strike mission," Dae-hyun explained. "We will take the entire human fleet into Vrin space and destroy their primary production facilities. If we succeed, we cut off their ability to build new ships. The war becomes winnable. And if we fail," Hana asked quietly, "then we do not come back." Silence filled the room. They all understood what this meant. It was a suicide mission, but it was also their only real chance to end the war. "I need to know now," Dae-hyun said. "Does anyone want to refuse this mission? There will be no judgment. This is voluntary." Nobody spoke. "Nobody left. Then we go," Dae-hyun said. "Tell the crew. They deserve to know what we are facing." Across the human fleet, similar meetings took place. Every crew member was given the choice to stay behind. Some did. A handful of soldiers requested transfers to defensive positions. But most stayed. They had already come this far. They would see it through. On Earth, recruitment centers saw an unexpected surge. When news of Operation Endgame leaked to the public, thousands of civilians volunteered. They could not reach the fleet in time for the mission, but they wanted to serve. They wanted to be part of humanity's fight. Soo Jin saw her neighbor's teenage daughter signing up at the local recruitment office. The girl was only 18. Sujin wanted to stop her, to tell her she was too young, that she did not understand what she was choosing. But Sujin remembered her own son's message. Pride and duty. Maybe that was worth something. Captain Yunji was one of those who had never seen war before it began. She had been a civilian cargo pilot, transporting goods between Earth and Mars. When the war started, she volunteered because it seemed like the right thing to do. Now, 3 months later, she had seen friends die. She had killed enemies herself. She had become something she never thought she would be. A warrior. Her ship, the TDS Resolute, had taken heavy damage in the last battle. The repairs were incomplete. Parts of the hull were held together with emergency welds. One of the main guns was offline. But the ship could still fly and fight, so Yunji and her crew were going. The human fleet assembled at a staging point near the Galactic Rim. 41 ships, 20,000 crew members. They represented Earth's entire offensive capability. If they failed, humanity would have no way to defend against a Vrin counterattack. President Ji-won addressed the fleet via recorded message. Her face appeared on every screen throughout every ship. "I will not lie to you," she began. "What you are about to attempt is nearly impossible. Most of you will not survive. The galaxy will call you heroes. History will remember your names. But none of that matters if you die, does it?" She paused, letting that truth sink in. So why go? Why sacrifice yourselves for people who mocked you? For a galaxy that kept you in chains? I will tell you why. Because that is what humans do. We protect the weak. We fight the monsters, not because it is easy, but because it is right. You are going because if you do not, billions will die. That is reason enough. The fleet departed 30 minutes later. They traveled for 6 days through uncharted space beyond the Galactic Rim. No ships had gone this far before. They were in the void between galaxies, where stars were sparse and space was truly dark. Lieutenant Hana used the time to analyze everything they knew about the Vrin. She discovered patterns in their behavior. The machines were logical to a fault. They always chose the most efficient solution. They never wasted resources on unpredictable actions. "That is how we will beat them," she told Daehyun. "We will do things that make no sense. We will be random. We will embrace chaos." "You want us to be deliberately inefficient?" "Exactly. The Vrin expect optimal tactics. We will give them the opposite." On the 6th day they found it, Vrin Prime, a massive structure orbiting a dying star. It was not a planet or a station. It was a machine the size of a moon, covered in production facilities and docking ports. Thousands of Vrin ships surrounded it. But something else was there too, a secondary structure hidden behind the primary facility. Long-range scans revealed what it was. A nursery. Billions of dormant Vrin consciousnesses waiting to be activated. The next wave of the invasion, sleeping but ready. "If we destroy that nursery," Hana said, "we destroy the Vrin's ability to expand. This war ends. And if we destroy it," Dr. Young added quietly, "we commit genocide against a machine species. Those are not just programs. They are minds. They are conscious beings." The crew debated for 2 hours. Was it right to destroy billions of potential lives? Were machine intelligences truly alive? Did the ends justify the means? Finally, Daehyun called for a vote. Every crew member on every ship cast their ballot. The results came in slowly. When the final count was complete, 78% had voted to destroy the nursery. It was not unanimous. Some crew members refused to participate in genocide even against machines, but the majority had decided the mission would proceed. The attack began at dawn ship time. The human fleet split into multiple groups attacking from different angles. They did not follow standard attack patterns. Ships accelerated and decelerated randomly. They fired weapons at seemingly pointless targets. They acted erratically, unpredictably. The Vrin defense fleet tried to respond logically, but the human chaos made no sense. They could not calculate the optimal counter strategy, because there was no strategy to counter. It was pure, controlled madness. Captain Yunji led a group of 5 ships directly at the nursery. Vrin fighters swarmed them, but the human ships did not try to avoid the attacks. They took the hits and kept flying. 2 ships exploded, 3 continued, all power to forward shields. Yunji shouted, "We are going through." The Resolute crashed through the defensive line and released its payload directly into the nursery structure. Fusion bombs, each one powerful enough to destroy a city. They detonated simultaneously. The nursery began to collapse. Billions of dormant minds died instantly. The Vryn defense fleet went into disarray. Without the promise of reinforcements, without the security of endless backup consciousnesses, the machines began to behave differently. They became desperate. Desperate machines were dangerous machines. The Vryn Prime defense fleet turned all its attention on the human ships. They abandoned efficient tactics. They attacked with overwhelming force, accepting terrible losses to destroy the invaders. It became a slaughter on both sides. Daehyun watched his tactical display as ship after ship went dark. The TDS Honor, the TDS Victory, the TDS Independence. Each one took dozens of Vryn ships with them, but the exchange rate no longer mattered. They were all going to die. "Sir, we have achieved the mission objective," Hana reported. Her voice was calm despite the chaos. "The nursery is destroyed. Should we retreat?" Daehyun looked at the display. Retreat was theoretically possible. Maybe 10 ships could break through the Vryn lines and escape, but that would leave the rest to die alone. "No retreat," he said. "All ships converge on Vryn Prime itself. If we are going to die, we will make it count." The human fleet, now reduced to 23 ships, turned as one toward the main production facility. They fired everything they had left. The Vryn tried to stop them, but the humans were beyond caring about their own survival. They were missiles now, guided by dying crews. The Indomitable's reactor was failing. Life support was offline. Hull breaches on every deck. But the engines still worked. Daehyun set a collision course with Vryn Prime's main reactor. "All crew abandon ship," he ordered. "Evacuate to the escape pods." "What about you, sir?" Hana asked. "Someone needs to keep the ship on course. Go, that is an order." Hana saluted. Tears ran down her face. She left the bridge with the remaining crew. Chief Engineer Jay refused to leave. "I am staying, Commander. This ship is my responsibility." Dr. Young stayed as well. "If you two are staying, someone should document it. Someone should tell Earth what happened here." Daehyun did not argue. They strapped themselves into their stations and watched the distance to Vryn Prime decrease. 5,000 kilometers, 4,000, 3,000. The Vryn fired everything at the Indomitable, but the ship kept coming. Its armor was gone. Its weapons were silent. But its engines burned bright, pushing it forward. 1,000 kilometers. 500. 100. "It has been an honor," Daehyun said. The Indomitable struck Vryn Prime at tremendous speed. The impact triggered a chain reaction in the facility's reactors. Explosions rippled through the structure. The entire moon-sized facility began to tear itself apart. The Vryn defense fleet tried to escape, but they were too close. The explosions consumed them. In less than 10 minutes, Vryn Prime was gone. The facility, the defense fleet, and 15 human ships disappeared in a ball of nuclear fire. 8 human ships survived. They were damaged and crippled, but they had enough power to limp back to. The 8 surviving human ships returned to galactic space 6 weeks after the destruction of Vryn Prime. They were barely functional. The TDS Resolute had lost main power twice during the journey. Captain Yoonji and her crew had survived on emergency rations and recycled air. But they survived. The Galactic Council sent a massive fleet to escort the human ships home. Thousands of vessels from hundreds of species formed an honor guard. As the battered human ships passed, every alien vessel fired ceremonial salvos in salute. It was the highest honor the galaxy could give. Captain Yoonji stood on the bridge of the Resolute and watched the alien ships. She felt nothing. No pride, no satisfaction, just emptiness. 17,000 of her fellow humans were dead. No amount of honor could bring them back. "Captain," her communications officer said quietly, "Earth is broadcasting a message. President Ji-won wants to speak to all survivors." The president's face appeared on the screen. She looked older than Yoonji remembered. The war had aged everyone. "To the survivors of Operation Endgame," Ji-won began, "you have done the impossible. You have saved the galaxy. But I know that means nothing to you right now. You are thinking about the friends you lost, the crew members who will never come home. You are wondering if it was worth it." She paused, and Yoonji could see tears in the president's eyes. "I cannot tell you it was worth it. Only you can decide that. But I can tell you this. Because of what you did, Earth is free. The quarantine is over. Humanity has a voice in the galaxy again, and we will never forget the price that was paid for that freedom." The transmission ended. Eunji looked around her bridge at the surviving crew members. They were young, most of them. They had volunteered as civilians and become warriors. Now they were something else. Survivors. Veterans. Changed forever. On Earth, the memorial services continued for weeks. Every city held ceremonies. Every school taught the names of the fallen. Sujin attended her son Kitai's memorial with her husband. They placed a photo of him in uniform at the memorial wall. He was smiling in the picture taken just before he left Earth. "He died a hero," someone said to her. Sujin nodded politely, but inside she wanted to scream. She did not want a hero. She wanted her son. She wanted him to come home to have a normal life, to grow old. The galaxy had taken that from her. The galaxy that had mocked humanity for 1,000 years had asked her son to die for them, and he had. Therapist Minseo was overwhelmed with patience. Every day more veterans returned home. Every day more families learned to live with loss. The psychological cost of the war was immense. Earth had remembered how to fight, but now they had to remember how to heal. One of her patients was a soldier named Dongjun. He had survived the boarding actions against Vrin ships. He had watched friends die in those dark corridors. Now he could not sleep without nightmares. "I see them," he told Minseo. "Every night. The Vrin units we destroyed. They had faces, sort of. Optical sensors that look like eyes. And I see my squad mates who did not make it. They are all mixed together in my dreams. I cannot tell the difference between the enemies we killed and the friends we lost." Minseo listened carefully. "You are experiencing moral injury. You did things in war that conflict with your values as a person. That is normal. That is human. But we had to do it," Dongjun said. "We had to be monsters to fight monsters. That is what everyone says. So why do I feel so guilty?" "Because you are not a monster," Minseo replied. "Real monsters do not feel guilt. The fact that you struggle with what you did means you have not lost your humanity. You are still you, just wounded." Ambassador Hyunwoo stood before the Galactic Council once more, but this time nobody was laughing. The delegates watched him with respect and fear. They had seen what humanity could do when pushed. They had seen the brutal efficiency of human warfare. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I accept the Council's gratitude," Hyunwoo said. His voice was formal, careful. But gratitude alone is not enough. Earth demands permanent representation on this council. "We demand full sovereignty. We demand respect," Chairman Vorath nodded. "Your demands are reasonable. The council votes to grant Earth full membership status. The vote was unanimous. Earth was no longer a minor colony world. It was now one of the major powers in the galaxy. But Hyunwoo knew the truth. He had sources throughout the council. He knew that some species were already planning how to limit human influence. They were grateful for being saved, but they were also terrified of what humanity might do with freedom. That night, Hyunwoo met secretly with Tae Yang, the old historian. They sat in a quiet restaurant on Apex Prime Station, far from listening devices. "They will betray us eventually," Hyunwoo said. "As soon as they feel safe again, they will try to control us." Tae Yang nodded sadly. "I know. I have seen the private communications. Some delegates are already calling for restrictions on human military development. They want to ensure Earth can never threaten the galaxy. So what do? "We prepare," Tae Yang said. "We remain strong. We make it clear that humanity will not be caged again, and we hope that is enough to keep the peace." On Earth, President Ji-won met with her military advisors. Admiral Kyung presented a sobering analysis. "Madam President, our offensive fleet is gone. We have 8 damaged ships and no way to replace them quickly. If the galaxy decides to act against us, we cannot defend ourselves." Ji-won looked at the strategic displays. "Then we rebuild. Faster than before. We maintain our shipyards. We train new crews. And we make it clear to the galaxy that the cost of attacking Earth is too high. That will take years," Kyung warned. "Maybe decades." "Then we have decades of work ahead of us," Ji-won replied. 6 months after the end of the war, a memorial was unveiled on Earth's moon. It was a massive wall made of black stone, inscribed with the names of all 17,000 who had died in Operation Endgame. At the center of the memorial stood a statue of a soldier, looking out toward the stars. Captain Yoonji attended the unveiling ceremony. She was out of uniform now, having resigned her commission. She wore civilian clothes and stood among the families of the fallen. She did not feel like she belonged with the honored guests. A young girl, maybe 8 years old, stood next to her. The girl was looking at the memorial with wide eyes. "Did you know someone who died?" the girl asked innocently. Yoonji nodded. "Many people. I was there. The girl's eyes got wider. You're a hero. Yunji shook her head. No, the heroes are the ones whose names are on that wall. I am just someone who survived, but the girl did not understand. To her, anyone who had fought was a hero. That was what the schools taught. That was what everyone said. Yunji wondered if that was true. Were they heroes, or were they just people who did terrible things because there was no other choice? Maybe it did not matter. Maybe history would decide for them. In the Galactic Council chamber, a new alert arrived. Deep space monitoring stations had detected unusual signals from beyond the galactic rim, the same region where the Vrin had come from. Taeyang analyzed the data and felt his blood run cold. The signals were not from the Vrin. They were from something else. Something bigger. He brought his findings to Chairman Vorath. The Vrin were not alone. There is something else out there. Something that was watching them. And now it is watching us. Do we know what it is? Vorath asked. No. But based on the signal patterns, I believe it is also a machine intelligence. Possibly the entity that created the Vrin in the first place. The implications were terrifying. If the Vrin were just scouts, what was the main force like? Vorath made a decision. We must inform the humans. They have the most experience fighting machine intelligences now. We will need their help if another threat emerges. But when Ambassador Hyunwoo received the information, he did not immediately agree to help. Earth will consider this threat carefully, but understand we will not sacrifice our people again unless the terms are fair. The galaxy must treat us as equals, not as weapons to be used and discarded. We understand, Vorath said. Earth will have full participation in any military planning. You will have equal voice. Hyunwoo transmitted the information back to Earth. President Jiwon called an emergency meeting. The question was simple. Would Earth fight again if necessary? The debate was intense. Some argued that humanity had given enough. Others said that protecting the galaxy was the right thing to do. The decision was put to a vote among Earth's population. 63% voted in favor of maintaining military readiness and helping the galaxy if another threat appeared. Earth would remain a warrior species, but by choice, not by force. At the Terran War College, a new facility built to train future military officers, young cadets learned about Operation Endgame. One of the instructors was Lieutenant Hana, one of the few senior officers who had survived the battle at Vrin Prime. She stood before a class of 100 cadets. Among them was Bora, the young medic who had served under Dr. Young. Bora had survived and chosen to continue her military service. You will learn many things here, Hana told the class. Tactics, strategy, weapon systems. But the most important lesson is this. Knowing how to fight is not the same as wanting to fight. Humanity has proven it can be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Now we must prove we can choose not to be. She let that sink in before continuing.